What if justice was present in name only, but absent in truth? What if the most important trial in history was decided not by evidence, but by pressure, fear, and silence? And what if the one being judged was actually the one who would one day judge the world? The morning begins with urgency, but not righteousness. Jesus is led away again, this time into the hands of Roman authority. The atmosphere is different now. No longer just mockery in the dark, but formal accusation under daylight. Yet beneath the surface, nothing has become more truthful, only more complicated. They bring him to Pilate. Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor, is a man trained to deal with order, rebellion, and political tension. He is not new to trials. He understands law, structure, and control. But what stands before him now does not fit into any category he knows. The accusations begin immediately. The religious leaders speak with urgency, stacking charges one after another. They try to frame Jesus not just as a religious problem, but as a political threat. They say he misleads the people, forbids taxes, and claims kingship. Each accusation is carefully shaped to force Rome into action. But Pilate listens differently. He looks at Jesus. There is no violence in him, no rebellion, no armed followers, no visible threat, only silence. And that silence creates tension in the room. Because silence is difficult to accuse. Silence does not defend itself, yet it does not collapse under pressure either. Pilate begins to question him. "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus responds, but not in the way the crowd expects. His words are measured, calm, almost distant from the chaos around him. There is no attempt to escape the moment, no desperation to convince, no emotional defense. Pilate is unsettled. He realizes something important. There is no legal basis for death here. No crime that matches the punishment being demanded. And so a conflict begins, not between justice and injustice in the traditional sense, but between truth and pressure. The religious leaders push harder, their voices grow louder, their demands become more urgent. They know how fragile Roman political balance is. They know how quickly fear of unrest can influence decisions. Pilate is now caught between what he sees and what is being demanded of him. Then he hears something else. Jesus is from Galilee. That detail changes everything for Pilate, not morally, but politically. Galilee falls under Herod's jurisdiction. This becomes an opportunity to shift responsibility. And so Jesus is sent to Herod. Herod Antipas is in Jerusalem at the time, a ruler with curiosity more than conviction. He has heard about Jesus before, stories, miracles, rumors of power. He has wanted to see him, not for truth, but for entertainment. Now that desire is suddenly fulfilled. When Jesus is brought before Herod, the atmosphere shifts again. This is no longer a courtroom. It becomes something closer to a stage. Herod is excited in a way that reveals his misunderstanding of the moment. He asks many questions. He expects signs. He hopes for demonstrations of power. But Jesus remains silent. Not because he cannot respond, but because the questions themselves reveal the heart behind them. Herod is not seeking truth. He is seeking spectacle. The silence becomes uncomfortable again, but for a different reason. Before Pilate, silence felt like restraint under pressure. Before Herod, silence feels like refusal to entertain emptiness. The soldiers join in. The tone changes. What began as curiosity turns into ridicule. Jesus is mocked again, dressed in an elegant robe, treated as insignificant royalty. Not honored, but mocked through imitation. Herod laughs. His court joins him. The moment becomes a performance of disrespect wrapped in political convenience. Yet again, Jesus does not respond. There is something deeply revealing about this silence. It is not confusion. It is not helplessness. It is discernment. He does not speak where there is no intention to hear. After some time, Herod loses interest. Without answers, without miracles on demand, the moment becomes empty for him. And so Jesus is sent back to Pilate. Now the situation becomes more complex than before. Pilate and Herod, once in disagreement, find themselves indirectly connected through this trial. Ironically, this moment brings them temporary reconciliation. Political convenience often unites where truth divides. Jesus stands once again before Pilate. The pressure has increased. The religious leaders have not stopped. The crowd is growing more intense. The political risk is becoming heavier. Pilate feels the weight of decision. He tries again. He questions Jesus again. But answers are not changing the external situation. Truth is present, but it is not being received. Pilate begins to realize something troubling. Jesus is not what the accusations claim him to be. There is no evidence of rebellion, no political uprising, no legal foundation for execution, but truth is not always what decides outcomes in pressured systems. Pilate attempts a compromise. He offers the crowd a choice. There is a tradition of releasing one prisoner during the feast. He presents Jesus alongside another prisoner named Barabbas, a known criminal involved in violence and rebellion. The choice seems obvious from a justice standpoint, but the crowd is not operating on justice. They are influenced by fear, manipulation, and collective emotion. Voices begin to rise. Demands become unified. Release Barabbas, they shout. Crucify him. Pilate is stunned. The contrast is clear. One who is guilty of violence is chosen over one who has done no wrong. This is not a legal decision. It is a collapse of moral clarity under pressure. Pilate tries again. He speaks to the crowd. He attempts reasoning. He questions their demand. But the momentum has already moved beyond reason. The louder voice wins. The crowd continues pressing. The religious leaders intensify the pressure. The political environment tightens around Pilate like a closing circle. He hesitates. He knows what is right, but he also knows the consequences of resistance. Maintaining order is his responsibility. Rome does not tolerate instability, and so compromise begins to take shape. Pilate eventually yields to the pressure, not because he believes it is right, but because he believes it is necessary for survival within his position. He washes his hands publicly, a symbolic gesture meant to distance himself from responsibility. But symbolism cannot erase accountability. It only reveals awareness of it. Jesus is handed over. The decision is made not in justice, but in pressure. Not in truth, but in fear of consequence. Not in righteousness, but in political calculation. And yet, even in this broken system, something deeper is unfolding. Because what appears as failure of justice is actually part of a larger purpose. Jesus is not trapped by this system. He is moving through it with intentional surrender. Every step is not forced in the ultimate sense, but allowed in order to fulfill something beyond human understanding. Pilate thinks he is deciding the fate of Jesus. Herod thinks he is dismissing an uninteresting case. The crowd thinks they are choosing victory over a problem, but none of them see the full picture. Silence has been mistaken for weakness. Surrender has been mistaken for defeat, and truth has been mistaken for threat. Yet behind all of this, redemption is quietly advancing. This moment reveals something essential about human judgment. It can be influenced, pressured, and redirected when fear outweighs truth. Systems can fail, leaders can hesitate, crowds can be manipulated, but none of these can alter ultimate purpose. Jesus stands in the center of all this instability without being shaken by it. Not because the situation is small, but because the purpose is greater. Pilate's decision will be remembered not as justice, but as compromise. Herod's encounter will be remembered not as understanding, but as missed opportunity. The crowd's choice will be remembered not as wisdom, but as emotional distortion. But the silence of Jesus will be remembered differently. It will be remembered as strength without violence, as authority without force, as purpose without deviation. Because even when earthly justice collapses, divine purpose continues. And what began as a trial before men becomes in truth a revelation of hearts. Who seeks truth? Who seeks power? Who seeks spectacle? And who is willing to surrender everything for the sake of something greater? The answers are not found in words spoken that day. They are found in the silence that held firm through all of it. And in that silence, something eternal was already being written. Not a verdict of defeat, but the beginning of redemption for the world. Thank you for watching. If this message spoke to you, please take a moment to like, follow the channel, and share this video with others who may need to reflect on it.